Previously on Dallas. In Season 8, Donna Reed replaced Barbara Bel Geddes in the role of Miss Ellie.
Welcome home, Grandma.
Thank you, John Ross. Thank you.
And a jealous enemy strikes at Bobby Ewing. And later, in Season 9, Donna Reed is out and Barbara Bel Geddes returns.
I wish I were here yesterday to be with you.
That wouldn't have changed anything.
And as Pam awakes, was it all a dream? Has Bobby returned? And now...
There was something about Dallas that really captured the spirit of the American psyche in the 1980s, coming out of the recession and the oil crisis.
It was still the era of the big three, and everybody had their pie and they were making lots of money. I'm sure that they look back on those as the great glory days.
We thought the year that we called the dream it would be a turning point for the show, and indeed it was.
Ladies and gentlemen, the award for the Oil Man of the Year is being given posthumously to Bobby James Ewing.
Starting in the early 80s, Dallas was #1 and #2 consistently in the ratings, and in Season 8, it was still in the top 10.
Dallas wasn't #1 anymore. It wasn't Dallas versus Dynasty in the same time slot, so it was a whole different thing. Dynasty overtook Dallas in the ratings.
I think we lost by about a fraction of a point. What was happening was the Dynasty was kind of crawling on our backs.
They were constantly battling shows that were trying to compete against this winning formula.
You don't owe me anything, JR. I'm just happy to help you and JJ. Yeah, just remember, money is no object. What the judge wants, he gets, right? All right.
Dynasty was noted for its wardrobe, its jewelry, and its main antagonists were women. The men really took a back seat in Dynasty, so it had far more of a women's audience than Dallas did.
There was a time I wouldn't waste a minute on you. I'd simply have your legs broken. You see, when Sue Ellen decides to have an affair, she has one of two kinds. The passionate variety, which is the leg breaker, or the buddy-buddy kind, like you got.
That a fact?
Yes. You see, I live in the same house as she does, and I can tell when someone has lit her fire.
Can you?
And once Sue Ellen decides what kind of affair she's going to have, she never changes her mind.
Dynasty was introducing more elements of sexual identity, and I think that people were going through these questions after the sexual revolution and the rise of feminism, whereas Dallas was much more about sort of the early 80s muscular capitalism and trying to understand that capitalism and the structure of a family drama. So I think, yes, they did try to glamorize the narrative to varying degrees of success.
How's it going with Dr. Kenderson? Jerry's wonderful. I really enjoy being with him.
Sounds promising.
It is. But maybe I saw too many Doris Day movies when I was growing up. She always seemed to know what to do in a romance.
She had a way of making things look easy.
Relationships.
Yeah, so they tried to, I think, be like Dynasty, and maybe they're trying to change it up because it had, it's 8 seasons, spanned 7 years. That's a long time. I don't think it's bad when a show tries to change. I think after 7, 8 years, it has to.
Well, there always is that struggle in every show. They all try to do the best they can and hope for the best.
Are you forgetting how hard Daddy worked to build Ewing Oil so he'd have something to leave us? Is everybody forgetting that?
But we still own 70%. We still own the company.
Owning 100% makes it our company. Owning 70% makes us shareholders. Daddy didn't live and die for that. Neither will I.
What will you do?
Just what Daddy would have done. Start over. Only this time for my family, for John Ross. And I guarantee you, I won't sell him out the way my family sold me out.
One of the significant things about Season 8 is that Miss Ellie had left the show and she was replaced by Donna Reed.
Donna Reed is probably the biggest thing of that season because that was huge.
Her agent or manager wanted to renegotiate her contract. Nobody wanted to lose Barbara. I mean, that's for sure, and it just happened.
JR, I know everything seems to be coming down around you, not just Sue Ellen. everything else, including me. But that's changed now. And I want you to know that I'm standing behind you.
In what way?
In every way.
Anytime you have a show that goes over multiple seasons, you have to deal with that issue of stars having to leave or their contracts not getting negotiated.
We had lost Jock. If we lost Miss Ellie, we would have lost the family. And so we got Donna Reed.
Ewing oil was a part of my life before you were born. It saved this ranch, and it's the backbone of our family fortune. But as much as we love one another, it's caused us all a great deal of grief.
She was just so different. Her character, she looks different. The way she played Miss Ellie was different. It's a huge change, and I think Dallas is a show for people who've been watching 7 years with, they don't necessarily want change.
I think it created a shock for the viewers a little bit. There was a lot of questioning about such a major change in character.
She was elegant about it. She was very gracious about everything. She did well. It was just difficult for everybody to accept that. As soon as Barbara found out that Donna Reed was going to replace her, she said, "Stop, I want to do it." But the die had been cast. She certainly wanted to do the following year. So negotiations were begun about that.
They were glad to have her, even though they had Donna Reed sign on for 2 more years.
Everything was done to make Barbara comfortable to come back. And she was welcomed with open arms. She was the character who glued the family together. So you couldn't lose her. When we lost Bobby, a similar thing happened.
I'll call you as soon as I talk to Jenna.
Are you sure we're doing the right thing?
You know we are.
The season finale was always a big deal. You always wanted to watch the season finale and the season opener to see what was happening.
I feel so bad for her. But I'm so glad that it's me you want to marry.
I know that for sure.
Finally, Bobby and Pam get back together, and you're like, great. And then Pam's sister kills him.
Patrick, at the time, had been on Dallas for 7 years and felt he had a film career, I think, to step into. I think he wanted to do films. What actor doesn't?
It gets to a point where they've all made a lot of money, and it doesn't become a question of money anymore. It becomes a question of challenge as far as what you're doing. You know, you want to be bored. You go there every day, do the same thing, and say the same words, and you get bored. You have enough money to go and do what you want, so go try it.
I know Patrick Duffy had wanted to be dead. He wanted to be really clear that he was dead and he was not coming back.
The question is how. Generally want to kill somebody off camera because you never know when you're going to have to bring them back, and you can always make an excuse, things that can happen. But he said, please, kill me on camera, let them see me die. So that's it, I will not be back.
For somebody who watched the show that long, and Bobby was a big part of it, and kind of left you thinking, what the heck is the show going to be now?
At the very beginning, it was the intent to lose Bobby in the 7th episode, I think. But he stayed alive for 7 years. When he finally did die, what happened was JR, who was Kane, essentially, had no able to fight against.
What I'm saying is, this family is going to have a terrible time trying to face up to the loss of Bobby.
The show had started to drop in ratings and in quality. They were losing audience.
It began to fail into a nosedive. And so at that point, they asked Larry what they should do, and Larry said, well, I want you to bring back Bobby.
And we had a problem. Patrick would like to come back. Everybody wanted him back. How do you do it?
I mean, he flatlined in front of everybody in the family and was buried. So there's really no way they could be like, it was his evil twin. That wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have been plausible. It would have been just ridiculous.
Do you do a skin graft or something, making him look like Patrick Duffy, and then peel off all of the bandages? And there's Patrick Duffy, who was not Bobby, but he's the fake Bobby. We had a whole bunch of ways that we might possibly bring him back, because another character. People wanted the character of Bobby Ewing back, and the character of Bobby Ewing is dead. Patrick Duffy coming back doesn't mean anything unless he comes back as Bobby Ewing.
Everybody wanted to know how is he going to come back on that great Friday night finale. And my wife was giving birth to our son. We were in the hospital, and I was supposed to help her with the pregnancy and all the things that you do. And I was just totally focused on the show, and she kept saying, help me, help me, help me. I said, oh, wait, I got to see what happens with Bobby.
I don't honestly remember whose idea it was. I do know how I found out about it. I was directing a Knots Landing on set, and Len came rushing in. I'll never forget, he came rushing in, waited for me to call cut, because I was directing. He came over, he grabbed me, pulled me over to the side, and he said, it was all a dream. And I thought, yes.
And we've always had dream sequences and things like that, but to have a whole season and get people wrapped up in the emotional drama for a whole season and then say, hey, look, it was just a dream, I think that, in a way, people felt like all of those emotional turbulence that they'd experienced was false. And so I think it was a risky maneuver.
Good morning.
Essentially, what we needed to do was get rid of anything that happened during that dream. So various characters had to be lost. Actors and actresses had to be lost. Plot lines were lost.
Sue Ellen, in the past, I never realized how lucky I was to have you for a wife and a lover. I took you for granted. I'll never do that again.
There's a lot of storylines in it that were good. I really liked that JR and Sue Ellen got back together and they had like a relationship based on like respect. Donna and Ray had a whole huge important storyline. She had a baby with Down syndrome. They're thinking of aborting it. It was a shame that it was all lost. And that's why people, I think, were really mad that it was a dream, because there was a lot of things that happened that they didn't want to say goodbye to.
I've heard a lot of people put it down, and I know the press had a field day playing around with it and putting it down, but I never heard anybody come up with a better solution to bringing Patrick Duffy as Bobby back onto that show, which was what was needed.
Did Ray tell you that Bobby used to play here?
Yes.
This treehouse, Jock built it for him. If ever there was a fair-haired son, Bobby was it for Jock.
And in the case of these serial dramas, they can keep the storyline going for year after year after year, and I think Dallas was, in general, very successful at that. I think this was a risky season, and I think it left a lot of people wondering what was really happening.
I don't think they could have done anything else. I think a dream was like really the only way they could have done it.
I thought it was an absolutely perfect solution because of the reality of the unreality of dreams.
Pam? Honey, what's the matter? You look like you just saw a ghost.
For a minute, I thought I did.
What?
I had a nightmare, a terrible nightmare. I dreamed that you were here and you were leaving, and Catherine was in her car and she was waiting, and when we started to leave, she tried to run me down, but you pushed me out of the way, and then she hit you, and she crashed into a truck and she was killed, and then we took you to the hospital and you died.
Hey. Pam, I'm right here, and I'm fine.
The 80s, remember, was pre-internet, pre-pharmaceutical era. People had to work out their social dramas with talk.
85 was the year that The Cosby Show just came out of nowhere and was a huge national phenomenon, was the biggest thing in television at that time, and it really totally redid the landscape at that point. But Dallas was something we've never forgotten.
Before I ever watched Dallas, I knew that Dallas was that show where that whole season was a dream. Between that and then the Who Shot JR thing vies for the thing that Dallas is kind of known for.
I think it's legendary for sort of showing the power of a serial drama to make you experience all these deep emotions and then also flip you 180 degrees the other direction and say, hey, what you thought was real is not real. This is really the way it is.
Whether you think it was genius, stupid, a good idea, whatever the case might be, you're still talking about it.
I was so frightened. Oh, I love you so much.
Honey, it's over. None of that happened.